Hey guys, it's Alex. So today I've got good news. This is a Thanksgiving special. Bad news, I'm French, I know nothing about Thanksgiving. Great. That's a very bad start. But I guess I've also got some good news since I've got an American friend right here in Paris. Her name is Jessie and she's a food illustrator.
Allô?
Allô Jessie?
Salut, t'es en bas?
Ouais, je suis en bas, je viens d'arriver. Ok. Je suis. Oh, c'est cool, merci d'ailleurs. Il est sorti quand celui-là?
Mars dernier.
Mars dernier?
Oui. Tu peux
Okay.
parler anglais?
Yeah, well maybe we can switch to English,
okay.
It's gonna be better. It's so nice to have a proper American accent on this channel for once.
Because the thing about Thanksgiving that you need to know is Thanksgiving poses a lot of stress on people because they have to cook everything from scratch and they have to do everything themselves for a mass amount of people. So it's the ultimate cooking challenge in America.
Oh wow.
No pressure.
So it starts at what, like 3 p.m. or what?
It depends, 2, 3 p.m.
How many dishes on the table?
You always have turkey, you have mashed potatoes, you have cranberry sauce. So there's always the classic dishes, but every family has their own way of customizing things that represent their own culture.
Who was the person cooking at your place?
We would drive, I'm from the city, but we would drive about an hour to the suburbs to my aunt's house, and she would organize it at her place because she has a big house, and so she would make a giant turkey, sometimes a deep fried turkey, it would depend on the year, and she would make most of the food and everyone would bring something.
Oh, okay.
So we'd organize ahead of time and say, like, you know, I'll bring rolls or something else. So it's a potluck, that's another.
It's a potluck.
Yes.
I do cook for Christmas every year, so
Okay.
I'm familiar with this, you know, task splitting.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Jessie.
you. Good
Thank
luck.
you so much. Merci
Don't mess
beaucoup.
it up.
Happy Thanksgiving then.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Okay? Super. Right, so from what I've understood so far, Thanksgiving is a celebration. Tons of different dishes which need to be cooked at different temperatures, different cooking time, baking time, roasting time. So basically, from a project management point of view, it's a mess. My Thanksgiving shortlist goes as follows. Turkey, of course. Gravy, mashed potato, cranberry sauce, stuffing, squash, green beans, apple pie, pumpkin pie. 9 dishes to rule them all. It's like that movie voice just got French. This is the blank canvas we need to first list all the tasks per recipe and then to organize the whole thing as a stream, as a very effective stream. That's what we're gonna do, okay? First, I'm putting them on the board in no particular order because I'm thinking there might be some positive cross-contamination in between those positive cross... Well, you'll see about that.
I'm wondering what you got for me. Egyptian cotton, it's hard to beat. My lady only. I'm wondering what you got for me. Egyptian cotton, it's hard to beat. My lady only.
Alright, so I've got the rough outline ready behind me, but now I think we need to address each and every one of these recipes and do the fine tuning. I've got an apple pie, which recipe comes from the New York Times, and I've got a pumpkin pie, which recipe comes from Chef John. Those pies will mainly be cooked on Monday. So obviously when you're making 2 pies at the same time, there is quite a bit of redundancy, but we're gonna use that in our advantage. Prep the ingredients, make the dough, chill the dough in the fridge. For the apple pie, we could skip the baking time right there. Freeze it raw. And it's basically gonna stay like this until Thursday, so Thanksgiving Day, where instead of reheating the pie, we are actually gonna bake it. You need to do this in the morning. I would keep them just at room temperature that day, somewhere on the counter, but now the pumpkin pie, it's a bit more tricky, I'm not gonna lie. If the start is the same, then you would move to making a custard. Now you could bake it on Monday. The only problem is that you've got a problem, you've got a problem, you've got a problem. Because there are eggs involved, you can't just freeze it and then thaw it or just... I got it. I would keep the custard in the fridge, press the dough inside the pie dish, bake it blind for like 15 minutes, and then I would freeze it. This one stays in the fridge, and the pie dish stays in the freezer. So a double morning bake, followed by a simple yet I think sufficient room temp storage. So this is the pie situation sorted. I still got 7. Monday is pie day, but it's also sauce day. So let's review the cranberry sauce recipe I have chosen from BBC Good Food. Super straightforward. Since it's quite tangy and acidic, you can store that in the fridge until Thanksgiving Day, on which it can be served at room temperature. Now for the gravy. This recipe comes from my mate Jamie Oliver. It's quite simple, but it's super flavorful. Chop the vegetables and the meat, roast them, boil the glaze on the stove, strain and crush everything into a sauce, and then, I'm not sure, why would I go for the fridge when the fridge is gonna be super full of so many stuff? Freeze it in small batches, all the way to, don't boil it, that's bad, just simmer it. And that's the gravy done. Let's move on to day number 2, Tuesday, as known as vegetable day. My squash recipe, it's a simple roast, but it comes from Ina Garten, so it's super solid. Prep, cut and mix, roast them, keep them until D-Day. I would pick the fridge, because the freezer tend to have a bad effect or consequence on those squash. They tend to crystallize and then get more watery as they thaw. Reheat them for about 30 minutes, and that's why it wasn't a problem if they were a bit undercooked at first. Okay, greens now. I picked up French beans just because. Following the Jacques Pépin recipe. Prep those crispy shallots, low heat, and then you go up and let them cool completely before storing them in an airtight container. Then of course you would cook the French beans. Then that's where I got a problem. I don't have a problem with the Jacques Pépin's recipe, you know, he's my man. Mad respect for the guy. No, the oven is gonna be overcrowded. I don't want all things to be reheated. One of my absolute favorite way of eating those green beans is just by serving them cold with a powerful garlicky salad dressing. Keep those until the afternoon of Thanksgiving Day, where you would not reheat them, but just mix them. Good. Wednesday is the day of the sides. My stuffings recipe comes from the website epicurious.com, and it has an amazing amount of positive ratings and comments. You cook celery and onions on the stove while the bread is drying in the oven. Then you want to bake them covered and then bake them naked for about 6. Instead of 60 minutes, I suggest you go 45 minutes. Fridge, and then overnight, Thursday afternoon, reheat. Next side, mashed potato. This is super serious, and that's why my recipe comes from the authority, Alton Brown. Problem is, Alton Brown is very specific when it comes to mash. He insists, and I tend to agree with the guy, that mash should be eaten straight away, otherwise it's gonna be a bit dry. The problem is that if you want to do that, you need to cook mash right here. You're supposed to take care of your family, of your friends, so I guess it all comes down to something very simple. If you're not so much of a people kind of guy, then do the mash on Thursday. Otherwise, let's start on Wednesday. I could do it on Thursday. Use a food mill or a ricer just to get that potato mash very thin but still quite fluffy. Kept in the fridge until Thursday afternoon, when you would reheat them with a touch of butter, a shit ton at the table. D-Day, for which I'm afraid I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears and sweat. But at the end, victory. Victory at all costs. Victory in... My pièce de résistance comes from the website SeriousEats.com, where Kenji Lopez made something quite unusual, but I think brilliant. If you're starting with a frozen bird and you want to play it super safe, then you would start on Monday thawing that poultry in the fridge. Cold water, fridge, or just a fresh bird. You still have to bring it to room temperature first. Preheat, spatchcocked, season, roast it, then let it rest for 40 minutes. That's when you're gonna reheat all those vegetables. There's a little connection right there. You can use those juices and reincorporate them to enrich that gravy even further. Well guys, I think the Thanksgiving timeline is complete. Yes, I'm gonna turn the whole thing into a PDF, a handy PDF document that you can download and use to prepare Thanksgiving starting next Monday. If you have more suggestions about this organization, please let me know in the comments down below. I really hope that timeline can at least help you relieve some stress, because I know that those cooking days can be quite stressful. The only thing left is to wish you a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll catch up next time. Bye bye, salut.